I said he's the janitor, not a real teacher. Why are we even listening to him? The words echoed down the hallway, loud, condescending, and laced with that smug teenage arrogance that so often mirrors what it hears at home. The speaker was Blake Travers, star of the debate team, 3.9 GPA, and son of Eden Valley High's school board president. He stood outside room 104, arms folded, flanked by a few classmates who chuckled nervously. Inside the classroom sat a quiet black man in his late 60s, bent over a stack of scattered history books, adjusting worn glasses and holding a faded pencil in his left hand. Mr. Elijah Ward didn't look up. He didn't flinch. He simply underlined a passage in the textbook and closed it slowly. Then, with practiced stillness, he rose from the chair, back straight, shoulders square, and eyes clear. Outside, laughter continued. He just pushes Mops, right? Why the hell's he even in a classroom? That's when a voice cut through the noise. It wasn't loud, but it was sharp enough to pierce everything. Because he taught me more about integrity in one sentence than most of you have learned all year. The room fell silent. Standing at the door was Mariah Jensen, valedictorian, scholarship-bound, and child of 2 veterans. She walked inside, placed her notebook on the desk next to Mr. Ward, and turned toward the group. "Maybe if you listened for once," she said, "you'd know who you're laughing at." The next morning, Mariah walked into the school library with a purpose. She didn't go to her usual table near the back. She didn't stop to greet the other seniors working on college apps or scholarship forms. She went straight to the archive drawer behind the librarian's desk, the one no one touched anymore, filled with yearbooks and board meeting minutes going back half a century. "May I help you?" asked Miss Dreyfus, the school's head librarian, adjusting her scarf. "I'm looking for anything on Mr. Elijah Ward. Staff records, old photos, maybe even student testimonies." Miss Dreyfus narrowed her eyes. "He's not faculty." Mariah didn't blink. "But he was." The older woman hesitated. "I don't think that's public record." Mariah leaned in, quiet but firm. "Then you won't mind if I check anyway." She pulled out the lowest drawer, the one marked 1970 to 1990, and began flipping. 2 hours later, she found it. A folder, thin, yellowed, slightly torn at the corner. Label: Ward, Elijah, Social Studies, 1974 to 1985. Stamped diagonally across it in red. Removed from active record. Board Directive 5.3. She opened it. Inside, a single evaluation sheet with glowing remarks. Handwritten comments like, "Inspires critical thinking in even the most disengaged students." Uses primary sources to teach civil rights history. Student favorite. Passionate, grounded, unflinching. Next page, a memo from 1985. Teacher Ward has repeatedly failed to conform to curriculum expectations. His inclusion of off-book historical accounts, particularly regarding racial violence and systemic bias, has resulted in parental complaints. Recommendation: suspend classroom duties and reassign to facilities management. Mariah read the words twice, then again. She didn't know what was worse, the blatant silencing or the ease with which it had been done. Back at her house that evening, she showed the file to her father. James Jensen, a retired Army captain and former student of Elijah Ward. He stared at the memo for a long time before saying anything. He didn't just silence him, they erased him from the system,
from the memory of the school. Mariah pointed to a corner of the memo. "What's this?" "A faded signature. M. Travers." James's eyes narrowed. "That's Martin Travers, Blake's grandfather and chair of the school board, back then." Mariah sat back slowly. So this wasn't just random. No, it was legacy. That Sunday, Mariah returned to the school grounds, holding the folder close to her chest. Mr. Ward was sweeping the front steps, quiet as always, nothing hurried in his movements. She waited until he looked up. "I found something," she said softly, "and I think it's time everyone else sees it too." He didn't speak at first, just stared at her, really stared at her, like he was measuring the weight of what she was offering. Then he nodded once, slow and deliberate. "All right," he said, "but understand something, Mariah." "What?" "This isn't about revenge." "I know." "This isn't about tearing anyone down." "I know." "It's about opening a door they locked shut 39 years ago and hoping the people on the other side are finally ready to listen."
Monday morning came with fog and silence. Mariah didn't go to homeroom. She walked straight to the front office and handed the folder to Principal Voss, a stern woman in her 50s, known more for her punctuality than her empathy. "I think you should see this," Mariah said, "and I think the whole school should too." Principal Voss scanned the front page of the file. Her jaw tightened when she saw the red stamp. Then she reached the memo. Mariah watched her eyebrows twitch, just for a second. "This is a confidential document," Voss said stiffly. "It was stored in an open archive drawer with no lock, no seal, no password." "That doesn't mean that it should be forgotten," Mariah interrupted, "or that it must remain forgotten." Voss placed the file on her desk. "You're asking me to open a 39-year-old decision, one that's legally protected by closed-session board votes and parental complaints." "I'm not asking," Mariah said quietly. "I'm informing, and if you choose to ignore it, I'll take it higher. My father still has contacts in the Department of Education, and I'm already drafting a piece for the Eden Valley Journal." For the first time, Principal Voss looked uncertain, not threatened, not frightened, but aware and tired. "Give me until Thursday," she said. "I'll take this to the board myself." Meanwhile, in room 104, the forgotten classroom, Elijah Ward sat with an old map of Birmingham, Alabama from 1963 spread across the table. He had no students. He had no assignments. But he marked each neighborhood where peaceful protests had turned into police beatings. He circled every school that had closed after desegregation rulings, and he underlined the word deliberate, scrawled in the margins of a court opinion. Mariah entered quietly. He didn't look up. "You're early," he said. "I told Voss. She's taking it to the board Thursday." Still, he didn't look up. "I'm not doing this for praise," she said. "I know. I'm doing it because I sat in civics class and realized nobody ever taught us how power erases people." He finally raised his eyes to meet hers, and this time they were wet. "Then maybe this generation will finally get it right." Thursday evening, the school board met in the auditorium, a rare move but necessary given the crowd. Word had spread. Students showed up, parents, even a few retired teachers. Principal Voss stood at the lectern. She placed the file on the podium and cleared her throat. "What I am about to say is not easy, but it's necessary." She read the memo aloud, the same one that reassigned Elijah Ward from teaching history to scrubbing toilets. You could hear a pin drop when she finished. Then came the questions.
Blake Travers' father, school board chair Nathan Travers, leaned forward, voice tight. What's the purpose of dredging up 40-year-old personnel decisions? Mariah stood up in the aisle. The purpose is to restore truth and to teach a lesson this school refused to learn. Several students applauded. Parents nodded. A local journalist began writing furiously. What do you want? An apology? A plaque? Mr. Ward rose in the back of the room. The crowd parted as he slowly walked forward. When he reached the front, he didn't take the mic. He didn't raise his voice. He simply looked at Nathan Travers and said, I want the door you locked to stay open this time. That's all.
Friday morning came with headlines. Erased history. High school silenced decorated black educator for decades. Eden Valley Journal. Mariah stood at her locker as classmates passed her with cautious nods, some offering brief, grateful smiles. A few whispered, "Thank you," as they walked by. Most just looked away, unsure where they stood now that silence had been broken. Inside the staff lounge, the mood was colder. Mr. Rowland, a veteran math teacher, muttered under his breath as he poured coffee. This whole thing's gonna tear the community apart. Miss Jeffers from English responded without looking up. Maybe the community needed a little tearing, something real to rebuild from. But others didn't agree. By mid-morning, a formal petition had begun circulating among faculty, framed politely as a request for stability, but in reality calling for the entire matter to be shelved pending district legal review. Mariah saw the document taped beside the teacher copy room. In the interest of student focus and institutional integrity, we request that all non-essential personnel and historical issues be resolved outside the bounds of academic operations. 43 signatures, almost all white, all neatly aligned. She tore it down. Then she walked straight to the one place they didn't expect her to go. The office of Nathan Travers, chairman of the board, son of the man who had signed off on Elijah Ward's removal in 1985, father of the boy who had laughed at Mr. Ward just a week before. Travers didn't look surprised when she walked in. Miss Jensen, to what do I owe the pleasure? Mariah placed the file on his desk, the same one Principal Voss had brought to the board. I'm not asking any more. I'm informing. Travers smiled, cool and professional. Informing me of what? That if Mr. Ward's name isn't added back to the official staff records by Monday, I'll hold a press conference right outside this building. He raised an eyebrow. You think the media cares about an old janitor? I think they'll care that your father's signature is on a document that erased a decorated veteran and respected educator just because he taught the truth. Travers leaned back, and for a moment the smile cracked. You've got spirit, but spirit doesn't change institutions. Mariah stepped forward. No, but exposure does. And she left. That night, Mr. Ward sat on the front steps of the school, the same steps he'd swept every Friday for the past 23 years. Mariah joined him. She didn't speak, just handed him a folded newspaper, the one with his picture on the front page. He didn't open it. He didn't need to. I don't want revenge, he said again. I know. I just want them to say my name like it matters. Mariah looked out across the courtyard where a few freshmen were still hanging around after practice. It matters to us, she whispered. Then maybe, he said. That's a start. Monday morning.
The air felt different, heavier, but not oppressive, like a room where every window had been shut for years, and someone finally cracked one open. Mariah walked through the school gates wearing a black hoodie. Across the chest, Elijah Ward taught here. She wasn't the only one. Dozens of students, black, white, Latinx, Asian, wore the same shirt, homemade, Sharpie on cotton. Some spelled his name wrong. Some had different fonts, sizes, ink smudges. But the message was clear. They remembered. They weren't letting it go. Inside, the front office had a new plaque mounted near the trophy case. In honor of Elijah Ward, educator, historian, veteran. He taught us what was never written and what must never be forgotten. It wasn't big, it wasn't gold, but it was real. That afternoon, the school held an assembly. All grades, all teachers, packed gym. On the podium stood Principal Voss, her voice less crisp than usual. "I have no prepared remarks," she began. "Only an overdue introduction." She turned to her left. Elijah Ward stepped up. For the first time in front of the entire school, he wasn't holding a broom. He wore a clean shirt, brown blazer, a simple U.S. Army pin on the lapel. He looked across hundreds of young faces, many of whom had never known his name until now. Then he spoke. "I wasn't meant to be here," he said plainly, "not because I didn't belong, but because someone decided I didn't." Silence. "I taught here from 1974 to 1985. American history, civics, ethics. I brought in real stories, uncomfortable ones, ones not found in textbooks." He looked to the back row where Nathan Travers stood, arms folded, face unreadable. "I was reassigned, not because I failed, but because I succeeded in a way some folks didn't like." Some students murmured, others nodded. "I've spent the past 23 years sweeping floors I used to walk as a teacher. I did it without complaint, but not without memory." He paused, looked at Mariah. "Until one of you decided that memory matters." Applause. First scattered, then stronger. He raised a hand, asking for quiet. "This isn't about me," he said. "This is about the classroom still locked, the voices still silenced, the history still redacted." He gestured to the auditorium. "Let's open the doors, all of them, and let the truth back in." This time, the ovation was thunderous. Weeks later, something changed. Room 104 reopened, officially. New curriculum, guest lectures, a program in Mr. Ward's name, the Truth Initiative, a partnership with local universities focused on teaching untold histories, the ones not in standardized tests. Mariah was the first student selected to lead it. And as for Elijah Ward, he declined the school's offer to return full-time. "I'm too old for report cards," he joked. But every Thursday afternoon, he came to room 104. Not to lecture, not to grade, but to listen, to guide, to remind them why the truth, even if buried, erased, or ignored, never really goes away. Because one day, someone will say the name. And this time, they won't whisper it. They'll say it out loud.